If you want Valentine's Day decor you don't have to take down in 2 weeks, this video is for you. I am sharing 10 of my favorite Valentine's Day decor ideas using Dollar Tree finds, pieces that transition beautifully from Valentine's Day into spring. Hi, I'm Loli. Let's create something beautiful and find a little joy along the way. For this first project, I'm going to use 3 of these candle holders that I found at Dollar Tree. I'm going to take some E6000 and some hot glue to attach 2 of these together. I'm going to be attaching it from their bottoms. And let me tell you, that bond was strong. Next, I took some of this spackle from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to add it to all of that edges that was left on there. And I'm trying to do it as smooth as possible, just making sure that that spackle goes into the groove and also to make it look seamless with the rest of the piece. Once I was happy, I just put it to the side to dry. Then I'm going to work with this candle holder, and it was black already, but I wanted to change it to a more opaque piece. Then I took a lot of hot glue and I'm adding it to the hole at the top of the candle holder until I get all the way to the top. And then I'm going to position the bottom tip of the heart right into that hole and hold it in place until that glue completely dries. Then I took some of these pieces of vine that I got from a previous pick from Dollar Tree, and I'm cutting the pieces that would have went onto the stems, and I'm going to glue them right into that hole as well. Here the glue was already dry, so I just added a little bit of hot glue to it and pressed it right there at the base of the bottom of the heart. And I'm doing the same exact thing on the other side. I thought this needed a little bit more, so I'm taking this piece of boxwood that I had laying around and cutting the piece in the middle there off, and then adding the rest of the stem to the middle here. And to add a little bit of color, I took one of these flowers from Dollar Tree and removing it from the pick and picking off that piece that goes attached to the pick and adding some hot glue to the back and position it right there in the middle of the boxwood and the 2 other greeneries. And I thought this gave it the perfect amount of color. All right, for the next one, once it dried, I'm taking my sanding block or my slip sander and I am sanding off any areas that are uneven. Once that was done, I'm going to take some of my Polkart black, rich black paint, and I gave it 2 coats. And abracadabra, pata de cabra, boom, it's painted. Next, we did the same thing with the other one. We're going to add the heart into the hole and put the greenery. However, for this one, I decided to put a white flower in the middle and 2 of the yellow greenish ones on each side. And that is the perfect touch. And we are done with this one. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think you'll be recreating this one? If you do, send me some pictures on Instagram. And if you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and make sure that you subscribe as well. It is all free and it means the world to me. Thank you. This project was inspired by this piece that I found at Pottery Barn's website. It is super cute, but I'm going to give it my own spin. I will be using this candy dispenser that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'll be sanding it down using some of this sandpaper that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm going to do both the top and the bottom. Once they were nicely sanded, we're going to put them back together, and I'm going to use my heat tool to remove this dispenser areas right here. I'm going to use my cotton attachment and then just melt away both of those pieces. If you're interested in getting one of these, I will be linking it in my description box below. And I also removed this top section here, just kind of shaving it off and making sure that I don't create a bigger hole as I'm doing that. So I'm pretty much just melting it into the center to cover that hole. And then I took some of this clay from Dollar Tree and I'm going to stuff it into that opening to seal it up completely. And I'm also adding some to that indentation and to that top hole there as well. I decided at this point that I wanted to add it all the way around so everything is cohesive, and I'm using some water on my fingers here as I'm using my gloves just to smooth my clay down as I go along. I went all the way around, also right here on the edges so we can have a nice finish bevel edged. And I just smooth it down with some water. But the next day, it all cracked, guys. I am not very good using clay. If you can, please let me know in the comment section below how I can avoid this. I will truly appreciate it. I ended up removing the pieces as you see there and covering them up with some spackling. and I just let that sit and dry. This packing lint looks a little dirty there. I just used some water where I had my paintbrushes in, so that's why it looks so dirty. Then I sanded everything down so I have a semi-smooth surface because I'm going for that cement look. Now I'm going to take some of my rose-tinted linen white chalk paint and I'm going to paint it with it. But I didn't like the texture, so I decided to take some baking soda and some paint and mix it together just so I get more of that cement look that I was going for. And I gave my heart a full coat with that mixture. Not just the top section, but I also added it to the base as well. And I just let it sit overnight to dry. Then I took some antique wax. I didn't do the bottom as you see there, but I'll do it later. I took some antique wax and I'm going to just dry brush just the smallest amount onto the sections here just to bring out some depth. It's just going to pretty much just hit those brush strokes and make this look a little bit more like the Pottery Barn piece that I showed you earlier. But as I said, we're going to do my own little spin. I wanted to add a little color to this. So I decided to use this greenery that I got from Dollar Tree in spring last year. And I'm going to use these little purple flowers that I came with. We're going to cut each one individually off of this pick. And I'm going to attach it right here to the base. I'm just using a small amount of hot glue to do that. Just position it right here. And then I did the same thing with the other side. We're going to use that same hot glue to add the second piece, but making sure that it's exactly on the direction that I want it. So I'm going to just spin it and hold it until it is placed correctly. Then I added a small amount of hot glue in the middle as well. And we're going to add this extra piece right here, right at the center. Again, making sure that everything is in the place that I wanted. Here was a little bit too long, so I'm just trimming it a little bit more. Adding some hot glue right there to the center of the other two. And I'm going to make sure to spread out the pieces exactly how I want them and hold them in place while that hot glue dries. Then I'm going to take some ribbon and we're going to go ahead and measure exactly a size of a bow that I want to add to this and cut that amount. If you would like to know how to make this ribbon dispenser that I have here on the screen, I will link it in the description box below. Also here, I'm just going to go ahead and crisscross my bow as you see there. Take a piece of leftover, I think I got this from some burlap, and tie it in the middle. And I did a triple knot, but just make sure that your knot is nicely centered and that your bow looks beautiful before you go ahead and tie it. Then I cut the excess there. I also slanted my edges, burned off the edges of my tails. And we're going to add a little bit of hot glue to the back, actually the front of the bow, because I wanted that other section to be the back. And that is it. Let me know what you think. Now let's go with the next inspiration. For this one, I'm going to be using the same heart that I used previously, and I'm going to use that wooden frame from Dollar Tree and that tissue paper as well. I did not end up using the arrows. I took the frame and I painted it with 2 coats of rose-tinted linen white chalk paint, and now I'm going to add Mod Podge to the center. Next, I'm going to take some of this tissue paper that I got recently at Dollar Tree. I thought it was perfect for today's DIYs. We will be putting this down when the Mod Podge is still tacky, being very careful to smooth it along as we go along, and also go ahead and crease the corners to make sure that we have that nice, crisp, and clean look. Once the Mod Podge was dry, I took my X-Acto knife, making sure that the blade is very sharp, and I just cut off the excess, having the crease be my guide. Then I carefully ripped off the excess, revealing a nice, clean cut. To further protect this, I'm going to add a layer of Mod Podge on the top of the tissue paper. If you notice here, the paper is kind of bubbling up, but that is fine. This sometimes happens. But just let everything sit nice and flat and let it dry, and you'll see that everything will be good as new when you're done. Then I'm taking the heart and I'm going to add some hot glue to the middle portion right there on the bottom and at the top, and I'm going to place it at the center of the sign. Friends, I always want to know where are you watching from, just so I know how far my videos are reaching. So leave me a comment and let me know where you're watching from. All right, next I took some beads from that garland that I got at Dollar Tree. I'm going to go ahead and take some of this weathered wood from Valentine. It is wood based, and I just put it in a Ziploc bag and put some of it in there, swirled it around, let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then took it out and placed it in a piece of parchment paper to dry. And this is how they turned out after they were dry. They were not exactly how I wanted them, so I took some antique wax and I'm going to do a watered down solution of it and just put it all around all the beads, and that gave me the perfect mixture of brown and gray. And I just put it on the sign. I didn't quite like it, so I decided to paint it white. And then I didn't like it and I decided to paint it black. And this is what I ended up with. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this one? For our next inspiration, I'm going to use this frame that I got from Dollar Tree, or the core piece, that wooden crate that I got from Dollar Tree, and one of the hearts. Next, I placed the crate up top of the window sign as you see there. I wanted to mark exactly what sections will be showing once I stick these two together. So I just make sure to mark the sides as you see there, and I'm going to go in the back and mark off where the crate will be showing in the back of the sign. And I did this to identify the areas which I needed to paint. Then I painted the crate white, avoiding the sections that were outside the two squares that I did in the back. Even though this decor piece was already black, I painted it with 2 coats of my Folk Art Rich Black paint. And then I removed this piece that you use to hold it up. And then the hinge was kind of harder to take off. I just used my needle nose pliers to take that off and sand it off and painted that area as well. I decided not to use this piece, so I also unscrewed it using these small screwdrivers that I've also found at Dollar Tree. Next, I'm going to take some wood glue and add it to the bottom section of this sign as you see there, trying to stay only in the areas that the wood crate will be hidden in. I position my crate and cramped it down with some clips from Dollar Tree. Then I picked the best heart from this pack. And then I'm going to add some floral foam to the bottom of the crate. And then I glued the heart to the top section of the arch. If you want to make this more versatile, I will suggest to not glue it. Instead, use a hook so you're able to change out your wreaths with the seasons. I didn't need to do that, so I opted with gluing it on. Then I proceeded to use a variety of picks from Dollar Tree to fill in my crate. Don't mind the laptop that just shows up on my table here. My daughter had the need to show me some dresses while I was crafting, so just ignore that, okay? Then I took some of this boxwood from Dollar Tree. Actually, no, this came from Walmart. And I'm just going to cut it into smaller pieces and put them around different areas of my flower bed, we're going to call it for now. I added them into the front, to the back, trying to mix them up in between the other flowers. Then I took these florals from Dollar Tree and I'm going to also position it on different areas of the crate, just trying to cover up the floral foam. My friend, if you're still with me this far into the video, I want to give you a warm thank you. Thank you so much for sticking around. Leave me a flower emoji in the comments so I know who you are. And let me know where you're watching from as well. Thank you so much. And bing, bam, boom, this is done. Let me know in the comments what you think about this piece. I love it. All right, for this next inspiration, we will be using some of these clay pots that I found at Dollar Tree. 2 of the hearts that we used before, and these 2 pieces that I had left over from some craft somewhere. I painted the pots white and painted the sticks black. And now that everything is dry, we are going to put it together. We are starting with adding some floral foam to the bottom of the pots. Then I took the pieces of the two little sticks there. We're going to glue them to the back of the hearts. And to do that, I just wedged them a little bit in between both of the pieces there, added some hot glue, held it in place, and added a whole bunch of hot glue more on top of the stick to make sure that that did not go anywhere. But I made sure to keep it all in one side of the heart. It took a little bit of time for the glue to set, so I just took my silicone tool and placed it underneath of the stick to keep it leveled, and then I added some more hot glue to the top. And I positioned both of them into the floral foam. Now it's time to embellish it. I'm going to use some of these beaded garlands from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to cut off a section that will be big enough. I use about, I will say, about a foot I took off. And I'm just going to wrap it around the heart until I go all the way around. I started in the beginning and I started at the base of the heart, worked my way all the way around, and then ended up at the base again, close to the skewer. Once everything was nicely tucked in, I cut off the excess and then placed it into my floral foam. And I did the same thing with both pieces. For the bottom section, I'm using some of these flowers that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut them very shortly and put them in the inside of each one of these flower pots. And I did the same with the other flower pot. Don't forget to let me know in the comments, what do you think about this one? I love them. DIY number 1. For the first DIY, I used one of these love signs from the Dollar Tree. I removed the hanger. I tried everything to remove it. Eventually, I ended up just cutting it right off. And I took some of my Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint and I did a heavy dry brush over the entire piece, including the little nooks and crannies. Then I took this scrap piece of paint stir stick that I had laying around and I'm going to paint it as well using my white paint. I'm doing the same thing as I did with the love sign. I'm going to just do a dry brush. And this is how it ended up. Then I took one of this scrap rose that I had laying around and I'm going to stick it right where the O goes and make sure to have the petals lay down flat and covering the entire O, and then I'm going to reinforce it with some hot glue in the back to make sure that it stays in place. And here it is. Now I'm going to attach both of them to the board that I painted earlier. I'm going to just put some hot glue in all the spots where the letters touch the plank. And we are not done yet. I'm going to take some of the antique wax and I'm going to apply it using a dry brush effect in all the little corners and edges of each letter, just to bring a little bit more dimension and to tie the colors more together with the other DIYs. And here it is, all completed. The camera really doesn't do it justice. It is so cute. It's rustic and delicate at the same time. I hope you love it as much as I do. I used one of these signs from the Dollar Tree. Doesn't matter which kind you used. The long ones, I used this one from Christmas, and I removed the staples and the hanger from the back. And I'm going to go ahead and take some of my sanding blocks, sand down the edges, make sure that everything is nice and even. And then I'm going to apply some of my lightweight spackle from Dollar Tree to cover up those holes right there. Once I sanded the spackle smooth, I used some of this chalk paint from Rust-Oleum and painted the board white. And then I'm taking some of this folk art black paint and I'm painting the edges, giving it the look of chippy enamel. And I'm going to place this decal that I cut using my Cricut right at the top of the board. Then I took 4 of these envelopes that I found at Dollar Tree last year and I placed them one on top of the other, trying to space them in equally. And I attached them to the board using a combination of gel, super glue, and hot glue. And you think I'm done, but no, this is not the end. Next, I remove the little bows from the galvanized areas using some heat and my little pick, and I'm going to upcycle this. I took red check ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I'm making bows that are a little bit bigger than the original bows. To make them, I make an awareness bow, then bring the loop down, cinch it in the middle and tie it with a piece of jute cord. And I just apply a little bit of hot glue to secure it a little bit better. Cut off the ends and I'm going to put it into the galvanized piece, but there's a little bit of glue, so I just melted using my heat gun and I scraped it off using the scraper there. Before placing the bow, I dovetailed the ends. I just folded the ribbon in half and cut upwards to create the little tails. Before attaching the bow, I scraped off any excess hot glue from the surface so we can start brand new. Once I applied the check bow, I used one of the other bows that came with the piece and I attached it right on top of the buffalo check bow. I repeated that 4 times. Not done yet. We need to make a hanger. So I took some of this buffalo check ribbon and I'm going to attach it to the top as a hanger. The first thing that I did a knot on both sides just to give it a little bit more place for the glue to hang into when I glue it to the back. I placed it facing with the printed side out and I'm going to attach it using some hot glue in the back of the sign, pressing it down with my silicone spatula and I get myself burned as usual, and I'm going to put that down and make sure that everything is attached correctly. Once that attaches, I'm going to add some hot glue on top of the fabric as well, and then I'm attaching some hot glue to the back of this because I will be putting some craft paper over it so I can cover up the previous sign. Friends, this is a collaboration called Loving is in the Air, and it is a playlist with many very talented creators with lots of Valentine inspiration, so make sure to watch the entire playlist. Nope, not done yet. We're going to add a little extra. These are little felt letters from the Dollar Tree. They come with a little sticky side already. All you have to do is peel and stick. It's pretty good. So I took the J for my husband's name, the L for mine, and the S for my daughter, and the G for my boy. If you've seen that something like this. All right. For this project, I'm using one of these signs from Dollar Tree, painting it white. Also, I'll be using some hearts from Dollar Tree and a sticker, wall sticker as well. The first thing that I did, I took the hearts and I placed them on top of my wall decal or wall tile, and I'm going to use this to cover my heart. So I need to cut off the section that I will need for this heart. I peel off, and then this came apart, so I just put a little bit of hot glue. And be careful with the side that you put the hot glue, and make sure that your hot glue is in low temperature, otherwise you'll be melting out the top part of the wall tile. And I attached the heart to the back using the back adhesive. Once everything was secure, I just took my scissors and I cut off the excess, leaving the heart shape. Friends, if you have not done so, please consider subscribing, like, comment, give me a thumbs up, and these simple things help my channel grow tremendously, and I truly appreciate it. Then I make sure the back end was done properly. It wasn't, so I just added a little bit of hot glue in low temperature setting and tacked it back down again. I repeated the process for 4 hearts. Then I took some of my full color black chalk paint and I completely painted the hearts. Then I'm coming in with these little letters from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint them using my red apple barrel paint. Once those is drying, I'm going to be using some of full color black paint again, and I'm going to just paint the edges, creating like a chipped enamel look on this piece. I did all of the corners, including the sides. While that was drying, I took 4 dowels from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to stain them using my antique wax from Waverly. Then I took the white wax from Waverly, and I'm going to apply it to each one of the hearts just to bring out the ridges. Now I'm using my full card white chalk paint to coat the dowel rods, but in a kind of messy manner because I do want them to look like they are weathered. While that was drying, I glued on the letters onto the heart using some hot glue. Once the box was dry, I took some of this floral foam from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to put it into the box. I cut it in sections that were big enough to cover the entire opening, and since it was a perfect fit, I did not have to use any hot glue. Then I came in with some of this floral moss from the Dollar Tree, applied some hot glue to the floral foam, and added the moss on top of it. In this part, be very careful. I added a lot of moss on top to avoid any burns. And then I shaked off the excess. Next, I took my dowel rods and my hearts and I applied some hot glue to the back of my hearts and put the dowel rods as far up as I could without them showing on the other side. Then I reinforced it using some more hot glue. Once that was dry, I am placing it onto the foam board as evenly as possible. And this is how it's looking so far. Now I'm coming in with some flowers from the Dollar Tree as well. I took the red roses and I clipped them off of the stems, and I'm going to attach one in between each one of the dowel rods. Then I took the other flowers, did the same thing, cut them apart, and I'm putting them at each end of the arrangement and then in between the roses and the hearts. Then I took some of this ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to make some bows using it. I did an awareness bow, brought the loop down and tied it in the middle with some jute cord. And I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue to secure it onto the base of the heart. I thought that I was done, but I didn't like the height of the arrangement, so I came in with my tool and I cut about a third of the dowel rod off, and I did the same thing with the floral, and I just separated that fern-like piece from the flowers and added it as well and created like two different picks with it to make sure that everything was even. You see me just trimming every single thing. I'm trimming the roses. I'm just bringing everything down a little bit. I like the height a lot better than the taller arrangement. And here it is completed. I really love it. I'm just reinforcing it with some hot glue and touching up some areas with moss that got ripped off as I was changing things. I hope you enjoy this. I love this arrangement. Let me know how you like it and which one that you like better, the taller one or this one is much better. Let me know in the comments. I used one of these chargers from the Dollar Tree and I painted with my Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. I gave it 3 coats, drying in between with my heat gun. I then took some of these hearts that I found at the Dollar Tree last year, leftover from last year, and I'm going to select the best 3. Some of them don't look quite as a heart, so I took the best 3 that I could find, and I took some of these berries from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to wrap them all around the 3 of these hearts. Since the hearts were so small and my spool of beads was so big, I just cut off a section that I thought will be enough to wrap around the entire thing, made a tinier spool, and it was easier for me to wrap the berries in this manner. If you're enjoying this video so far, please be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It is free and it means the world to me. Once I was done with all 3 hearts, I placed them back into the charger, just looking at my placement And then I decided we needed to do a little bit extra. So I dry brushed some antique wax in all of the little bumps. I just wanted to tie everything together and give this a little bit more interest and some depth by just highlighting all of the little details on the charger. I don't know, guys, I find something therapeutic on just watching something come to life as we paint. After all dried, I repositioned my hearts back in the charger and I switched them around a little bit because I have a plan for the top. So I wanted to make sure that everything was nice and cohesive and the best looking. So I took some hot glue and I added it to the back of my hearts, and I started with the last heart. There you see me how I flipped it. I want the heart that's most pronounced to be in towards the middle, and then I attached the top one to my frame as well. Then I took some of this burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I cut it in half, and I was trying to figure out the best placement. So I was wondering if I should just put each side on there or if I should just tie together both of the ribbons onto it. But they are making sure that the height is also the same, and I'm having a lot of ideas in my brain at that time. Then I decided to just tie one end together and then cut the two sides, and we are going to attach it to the back of our charger. But first I wanted to make it a little bit more rustic, so I tore off all the seams that I had, like stitching that I had at the ends, and I want this to be a little bit frayed, so I took out some of the pieces from the burlap just to give it a little bit of the frayed look. I was studying different ways of putting this, and then I decided to just put them both in one section right in the middle. So I added some hot glue to the middle of the charger, used my silicone spatula to press that down to make sure that the hot glue will seep through the burlap, and then I placed the other side on top of more hot glue and put them both together in the middle. Once that was done, I was ready to add a bow. So I took a piece of the burlap, cut it the same length as the charger, and again remove all the stitching off the corners. Also removed a couple of threads from the burlap just to give it that frayed look, and I'm going to use this to make a bow. I took some hot glue, added it to the top of the charger, and pressed down the burlap right at the middle. Again, I used my little silicone spatula, just making sure that I didn't burn myself. Then I crunched up the bow a little bit more, added a little bit more hot glue, and I ended up with a nice and neat little bow. I trimmed the ends for it to be symmetrical with the other side, frayed it once again, and here we are going to be adding a little bit more embellishment. I took another red rose that I have left over from the Dollar Tree, from a pick in the Dollar Tree, and then removing the little extra piece from the top that will usually connect it to the stem. And I'm going to add some hot glue, and this rose is going to go right in the middle of my bow. And with this detail, my project is complete. Here it is. I really love it. I love that it's rustic, but at the same time it's delicate and romantic. I don't know, let me know which one is your favorite so far, and I hope that you are inspired to recreate this DIY. For this project, I used one of these slotted hearts from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to do another dry brush or thicker dry brush to it. I do it to the entire piece and just leaving some areas here and there with some paint. I painted the back and the front. Then I took some of my antique wax and I did it a very light distressing on the ends just to bring out some more character to this piece. I really like the dimension that dry brushing the ends give to different projects. I made sure to also dry brush the edges where the slots were to make sure that this was uniform. Friends, for this project we are recreating DIYs or projects seen by other creators and just giving it a special twist. And you will see my creators listed in my description box below. For this project, I'll be bringing in the roses and the burlap ribbon once again. The first thing that I did is I measured out my burlap ribbon, making sure that I had the right size, and then I'm cutting off that piece. Then once again, I am removing the stitching off this burlap ribbon. I did that with both the sides of the stitching. Friends, please don't forget to subscribe, send me a like, show me some love. I truly appreciate it. It is free and it means the world to me. Once the burlap was nice and frayed, I place it back down on my heart and I'm going to go ahead and flip it over, and I'm going to be hot gluing this to the back. Just make sure that everything is nice and straight before you do this, and be careful not to burn yourself. This project was inspired by Heidi Sample. You will see the link to her video in my description box below. Once everything was nice and straight and I'm satisfied, I'm gonna come in with some of these red roses from the Dollar Tree. I got this during the fall time. I love the deep red that it has. And what I did is I took 2 pieces of, there was the smaller roses. I put them together with each other, and then I'm gonna take some of that seam that I took off of the burlap ribbon, and I'm going to wrap it around the stem, covering both of the roses stems. I just secured everything with a little bit of hot glue and repeated this process until the entire stems were covered. I clipped off the little end of the stems, and I am going to be gluing down this to the burlap and to the heart slot as well. Once that was set, I took some loose roses, I trimmed off the extra piece, and I'm going to add some hot glue and glue them to each side of the roses. Once that hot glue dried, I added a little bit of hot glue in between the petals just to eliminate that gap that you see there and give this a little bit more of a full bouquet look. I took some of my jute cord, wrapped it around my hands a couple times to create a little bow. I tied it at the middle with some more jute cord, secured it with a little bit of hot glue, left the tails nice and loose, burned off all these straggly ends, and I'm going to be attaching this to the bottom part of my bouquet. And now it's time for a hanger. So I took some of these beads from the Dollar Tree that come as a garland, and I just added a little bit of hot glue to the end so it'll be easier for me to feed them through the little holes. And I looped it twice so I can create a bigger knot. Before I cut the beads off, I measured off to see how long I wanted this to hang, and I then made the decision at that point to cut the section that I needed to use so I can attach it to the other side. I fed the string through the back and did another knot and secured both of my knots with a tiny bit of hot glue. And I am not done yet. I took some of these rubbing transfers from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to apply them to different areas of this slats of the heart. And I'm going this to achieve a little bit of a romantic look and vintage feel. In the midst of me doing this, my transfer got stuck to my paper and took off a portion of my rubbing. I was so mad and sad, but hey, we had enough to finish this, thank goodness. So I just repeated this process with the rest of my heart. I just left the top section undone, but I did do it in all of the other slats. I did it on the outer piece and the complete bottom. I learned my lesson and I put the back end of the transfer on top of my work area so that way I do not lose any more of this transfer. I'm in the final piece, and this is how it came out. I love this piece, guys. Again, the camera does not give it justice or do it justice. It is gorgeous. I hope you guys like it too. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, here are a couple more videos you are sure to enjoy. Thank you so much for stopping by. You're amazing. Bye.